Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and I hope that this session will provide you with a bit of extra information on our grant program. My name is Heather. I am relatively new to the grants team, so please go easy on me. And I'm joined by my colleague Abby, who is our current grant programs manager. Just a little bit of housekeeping. All cameras and mics have been turned off. We will switch them back on during the Q&A session towards the end. And just to advise you, this session is being recorded. The recording will be made available on your request. I'll take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today, which for me is the Wadawurrung country, and I acknowledge that we are all meeting on different lands today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. So in the first half of this session, we'll provide a brief introduction to the TAC, what guides our work, and an overview of road safety in Victoria. Abby will then provide an overview of the Road Safety Grant Program before we open the floor to any questions. So for those of you who may not be aware, the TAC is a Victorian government-owned organisation that promotes road safety and supports people who have been injured on our roads. Along with our road safety partners, which are the Department of Transport and Planning, Department of Justice and Community Safety, Department of Health, Victoria and the Victoria Police, we're working to achieve the vision of zero deaths and serious injuries on our roads. This work is guided by the Victorian Road Safety Strategy 2021 to 2030, which aims to halve road deaths and reduce serious injuries by 2030 and eliminate road trauma by 2050. Our work is also guided by the safe system approach to road safety. A safe system is a holistic approach that recognises that different elements of the road environment must work together to keep everyone safe. These elements include roads and roadsides, vehicles, travel speeds, and road users. The safe system is based around the following principles. People make mistakes. When mistakes occur on the road, they can lead to crashes. We know that humans are fragile. The human body is vulnerable and not built to withstand impact of forces greater than 30 kilometres per hour. Any impact over 30 kilometres greatly increases the risk of dying. Road safety is a shared responsibility. We all have a part to play in creating safe road environments, and the road system must be forgiving. We need to develop a system to accommodate our mistakes. Through this grant program, we are encouraging applicants to consider the safe system and where their project may align with it. Later in this presentation, Abby will outline our priority areas of the grant program, which are aligned to the safe system methodology. So just a little bit of history of road safety in Victoria. The graph shown on the screen is a timeline of some key achievements that have been made over the years. As you can see, in the late 1960s, road trauma was quite high. In fact, at this time, Victoria was one of the worst performing jurisdictions in the world. But over the last 50 years, there has been a large focus on safe people. Measures that have had a significant impact include mandating seatbelts in 1970, the legislation of random breath testing in 1976, and the introduction of speed cameras in 1986. While it is still a work in progress, the number of lives lost on the roads each year across Victoria is now less than a third of what it was back in 1989. So let's talk about road trauma in Victoria. Before undertaking an initiative to tackle road trauma, we ask, what is the problem? Who is involved? Where and when is it happening? How and why is it happening? Our work is evidence-based. Over the next couple of slides, I'm going to share some information that helped inform the development of our grant program. The evidence discussed may also help you inform you of your road safety initiatives. So what is the problem? Although significant progress has been made, we are currently experiencing an increase in road trauma in Victoria. In the last 5 years, close to 1,250 people have been killed in Victorian roads. That's an average of 200 people each year. The average number of serious injuries is 5,000. These are quite sobering statistics by any means, And whilst it is concerning, we know what needs to be done to help us reduce this. Abby will touch on this a little bit more when we discuss the priority areas of the program and how you can help to work towards. So road users, these are what we consider the who. We know that vulnerable road users, including pedestrians, cyclists, and motorcyclists, have higher risk of death or serious injury than other road user groups. This is primarily due to their lack of protection and unlikely survivability of speeds above 30 kilometres. Our road statistics show pedestrians make up 14% of deaths and 12% of serious injuries, while cyclists make up 3% of deaths and 6% of serious injuries. The number of pedestrian deaths and serious injuries have risen in recent years, and so obviously this is an area that we need to pay greater attention to and prioritise. So driver age. When considering driver age, we know that drivers at either end of the spectrum present a higher risk, so our younger drivers and our older drivers. Whilst young drivers only make up a small percentage of licence holders in Victoria, they are really overrepresented in deaths and serious injuries. Older drivers, those aged 60 and over, are also increasingly overrepresented in crashes, and we know that they are vulnerable if they are involved in a crash. Now to the where and when. Where are crashes happening? We know that high-speed rural roads present a significant risk with over 30% of deaths occurring on these roads. We also know that places with lots of pedestrians moving around, such as schools and shops, present a high risk. A large proportion of serious injuries and deaths also occur at intersections and mid-blocks. And now we have the how and the why, our vehicles. Older vehicles are a really big road safety problem. In particular, cars 10 years and older pose an even greater risk as they don't have the safety features that newer models do. Abby will touch on these a little later in the presentation. And now our driver behaviours. So speeding, distraction, fatigue, and drink and drug driving. These are 4 driver behaviours that are strongly contributing to road trauma. In particular, speeding is a significant concern, and is the cause of over 30% of fatalities and a quarter of serious injuries. Distraction and drug driving have also increased in recent years, and fatigue, although harder to measure, is a contributor to many accidents. So I will now hand over to Abby, who for the remainder of the session will provide a bit of an overview of the Road Safety Grant Program. We will then open up the floor for questions. So over to you, Abby.
Thanks, Heather. So as we go through the rest of this presentation, I think a link between what the evidence is telling us about road safety in Victoria and the focus area we've chosen for this program should become quite evident. So firstly, we'll take a look at our program objectives. So this program aims to support community groups and organisations to develop community-based road safety projects. The program objectives outline how we specifically are hoping to achieve this aim. Firstly, we want to focus on how we can create a shared responsibility to road safety. We want to build and foster meaningful relationships with community groups and organisations. We want to support and empower community groups to drive community action, all whilst having a strong focus on supporting evidence-based projects that have the potential to reduce road trauma. Now onto what funding is available. So this program offers 3 funding categories to support and empower community groups to improve road safety in their local communities. The main 2 categories include road safety support grants and road safety collaboration grants. So with the road safety support grants, funding of up to $50,000 is available to support the planning and or delivery of community road safety projects. Although support is available to applicants through this grant, it's intended that the grant recipient really leads this project. With the road safety collaboration grants, funding of up to $150,000 is available through this category, to support the planning and delivery of larger community-based projects in collaboration with the TAC. So this project, or project category, I should say, sorry, as the name suggests, involves working a bit more in a partnership with TAC to plan and deliver the project. With that said, it is still intended that the grant recipient is leading the project. There's just a bit more support available to sort of lend some expert advice for these types of projects. So the collaboration grants involve an EOI process, with applicants needing to submit this EOI by Friday, the 8th of March, 3 p.m. So these EOI forms are currently available, and the link to access these forms is available on our website. With the EOIs, we'll endeavour to provide a response within 1 week, with applicants invited to submit a full application after this. Bear in mind that the longer you leave the submission, the less time you may have to submit a full application if you're invited to do so. So the third and final funding category of this program is our small grants. So the small grants provide funding up to $5,000 for smaller scale projects. Often, projects funded through this stream respond to immediate need. For example, a school undertaking bike ed classes with students may need to access a fleet of bikes or safety equipment such as helmets, and these are such things that could be considered through this funding category. So with the small grants, this funding stream is open all year round or until the funding is exhausted per financial year, whereas with the support and collaboration grants, they're both open for the specified periods outlined in the funding guidelines. Now we'll just take a quick look at who is eligible to apply for this program. So as mentioned previously, we're looking for applications from community groups and organisations who meet the criteria that's listed on the screen. If you're unsure if your organisation or group is eligible to apply, we strongly encourage you to get in touch, and we can work through this with you or provide some advice. So as noted on the screen as well, schools and LGAs can only apply for the small grants category. So just bear this in mind when looking at the types of applications that you could or aren't eligible for. Now we'll just take a quick look at the types of projects that will be funded. So such projects include projects that are road safety focused, projects that align with the grant program objectives, projects that are supported by evidence and the potential to reduce road trauma, projects that can be measured and evaluated, and where relevant, reflect the safe system principles, which Heather sort of described a little bit earlier, but you can also find some information on the safe system in our funding guidelines. Lastly, we're looking for projects that are sustainable without ongoing TAC funding. Now I'll just touch on some examples of previously funded projects. I just wanted to note that we've only had one round of this program in its current form. So currently the examples that we have are limited to the 2023 round. But in the future, we hope to sort of develop some more case studies and things like that that might help guide your planning for projects in the future. So in 2023, we funded a couple of projects with a focus on increasing access to licensing for at-risk groups. We funded some projects focusing on access to and correct use of child restraints, projects looking to understand community sentiment around safety in local streets, and also a project focusing on how to reduce low-speed run-over deaths. So a list of projects that were funded last year is available through the website. And if you'd like to know more details about these projects, you can get in touch as well. So as Heather mentioned earlier, there's a few priority areas that we are working towards through this grant program. These include safe road users, safe cars, safe travel speeds, and safe roads. So you can see here these strongly align with the principles of the safe system, which we sort of went through a bit earlier. So to expand a bit on our focus area, firstly, we'll take a look at safe road users. So whilst we acknowledge that there are certain things that community groups and organisation aren't able to do, for example, setting speed limits or introducing infrastructure on the road, we know there are many important things that you can do to help reduce road trauma and create a safer road environment for all. Such actions include not speeding, wearing seatbelts, using child restraints, not using mobile phones, wearing helmets, and assisting young people to fully participate in the graduated licensing system. Examples of projects that may be considered for funding that align with this priority area include providing cycling equipment, such as helmets and lights, to community cohorts who cannot access this, and sharing educational resources that are already available through either the TAC or one of our road safety partners. Another example includes promoting and encouraging full participation in the graduated licensing system. So safe cars is another of our focus areas. As Heather mentioned earlier, older vehicles pose a significant risk to road safety. We know that vehicle safety technology can help protect us if a crash does occur. So this focus area is about raising awareness of the benefits of vehicle safety technology and encouraging people to purchase the safest car they can afford. Examples of projects that may be considered for funding that align with this priority area include an organisation developing a policy around the safety requirements of fleet cars, or encouraging project participants to use the TAC's How Safe Is Your Car website, which is pictured here on the slide. So safe roads and safe travel speeds are our final focus areas. So improving roads helps to prevent and reduce the severity of injuries if a crash does occur. Transforming intersections, introducing roundabouts and other traffic calming infrastructure, and the creation of shared spaces all contribute to long-term road safety, as does reducing travel speeds on our roads. Although local governments play the primary role in managing roads, there is an important role for community groups to play in this space around raising awareness and education within the community. So examples of projects that may be considered for funding through this priority area, or that align with this priority area, I should say, include a local bike group may do some community engagement and identify the need for safer cycling conditions on a busy road and communicate the findings with their local government to help sort of lead to some better outcomes and planning in the future. Another example might include sharing communications around the rationale behind speed limit changes around a shopping centre or a school, for example. Another example includes raising awareness of the road safety as well as the co-benefits, including, for example, just general health and well-being and environmental sustainability associated with safe travel speeds. So lastly, we'll just touch on the types of projects that won't be funded through this program. So just noting that there's a page dedicated to this in the funding guidelines, and we strongly encourage you to become familiar with the projects or the types of projects listed on this page. And that if you do have questions about whether your project aligns with one of these sort of areas, just to get in touch with us. So projects that won't be considered for funding include where there's an existing suitable program delivered by TAC or one of our road safety partners. So in this area particularly, we encourage you to check out resources that are available through the Road Safety Education Victoria website, but also programs offered through the Vic Roads Community Road Safety Grant Program. So projects that won't be funded also include where there is evidence that doesn't support the proposed approach. We won't fund off-road driver training and simulation projects, one-off events, permanent infrastructure and signage, variable messaging signs. Funding is available for this type of project for local governments through our local government grant program. Research projects are not eligible for funding, and public education projects, including the use of billboards and roadside banners. So an explanation or rationale as to why these types of projects won't be funded is included in the funding guidelines, and strongly suggest you check this out before you commence an application. So just before we wrap up and open the floor to any questions, just wanted to flag some key dates for the remainder of the program. So applications for all funding categories are currently open, with the collaboration grant EOIs closing on Friday, the 8th of March at 3 p.m. If you were invited to do so, then the full application would be required to be submitted by Wednesday, the 3rd of April at 3 p.m. This is the closing date for support grants as well. Lastly, if you have any questions, please get in touch via the email that's shown on the screen. That email is also included in the guidelines if you have trouble accessing it in the future. We also strongly encourage you to access the Road Safety Grant Program webpage, which has all the links to the funding guidelines and some additional information there. So following the completion of this session, we will be able to make the recording available to you should you wish. So just send us through a quick email and we'll send a link to the presentation or to the recording to you.